On those pollution levels a little bit later as well. The Prime Minister is focusing on jobs and the economy this week as part of a UK tour.
Yes, he's been speaking to businesses about some of the measures unveiled in the budget, and he's with us now here on the sofa. Prime Minister, very good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things with you first, if you don't mind. Carol, talking about those problems with the smog, some schools staying shut in some places, and quite a few people concerned.
Well, it is unpleasant, and you can feel it in the air. The advice I'd give to people is listen very carefully to what the Met Office is saying about the weather, and Public Health England's website. You can look at that, or just go to gov.uk, which is the government's website, which will give you the latest in terms of medical advice. I didn't go for my morning run this morning. I chose to do some work instead. But you can feel it, but it's a naturally occurring weather phenomenon. It sounds extraordinary, Saharan dust, but that is what it is.
I want to ask you as well about last night's debate. Did your man win?
I didn't have a dog in the fight, as it were. The problem with this debate is both of the people taking part actually have quite extreme views. Nick thinks there's nothing wrong with Europe and we shouldn't have a referendum. Nigel thinks there's nothing right with Europe and we should just get out and leave. They're both wrong. The right answer is to be tough for Britain, renegotiate, get a better deal, and then give people the choice in an in-out referendum. And that's what I will do if I'm Prime Minister after the next election, before the end of 2017. That's what Britain needs, and it's actually what people want, which is a proper choice, but real change in Europe. And that's what these European elections should be about too.
One of the things that emerges after an electoral debate, as you know, an election debate, an issue debate like this, is you have a winner and a loser. I mean, you have these polls immediately that come out. Does it concern you that Nick Clegg has been deemed to be a dramatic loser
well, no, it doesn't
in the face of someone who has no MPs?
It doesn't concern me because on this one I do not agree with Nick. I have a very different view about Europe. I want real change in Europe. I want us to change our relationship. I want a renegotiation, and then I want an in-out referendum.
You're
so
quite
I have
close.
A very different.
You're quite close in some respects.
Well, we're in government together, and we've had to achieve things in government
UKIP
together.
Is what I was going to say. There are areas where effectively you could do business on, because he's the only major party leader who wants a referendum like you do.
No, well, he wants to get out altogether. He just wants to turn his back on Europe and not recognise the fact that we've got to trade and compete in Europe. I mean, today I'm travelling around the country highlighting the fact that there are jobs coming in this economy. I'm going to be at Accenture here in the northwest straight after this, where they're creating 2,000 jobs this year. I'm going to Birmingham, where the extension of the airport's creating 4,000 jobs. I'm going to be in Newbury, where Vodafone are creating over 1,000 jobs. This is all part of a picture of Britain competing and succeeding. I think the problem with the UKIP view is it's sort of stop the world, I want to get off, Britain can't succeed. It's deeply pessimistic. I'm very optimistic. We can, if we take the right decisions, secure a really strong and stable future for the families of our country. But that means being strong for Britain, not saying no change in Europe, saying yes, we need change, and when we get that change, we'll give you, the British people, a choice.
And let's talk about trade, because as you announce those jobs, it's been announced that UK Coal, as you well know, is now threatening the loss of 1,300 jobs because of these deep coal mining, the mines that are closing. Now, will the government do anything to try and keep those mines alive?
Yes, we will do everything we can. We're talking to the company, we're talking to other businesses related to this company. We'll do everything we can to help them. There are obviously limits. This is taxpayers' money that would have to be involved, but we will work with them as closely as we can. I'm in the business of trying to save jobs, of making sure we have diverse supplies of energy, so if we can help, we will help.
Can I be clear, though, that's not money to help close them down. You're offering money to try and keep the mines alive as working concerns?
Well, we want to do everything we can to keep people in their jobs and to keep businesses going. There are limits to what we can do, because you're not allowed to just willfully spend taxpayers' money helping particular businesses. But if there are things that we can do, if there's bridging finance that we could make available, then we will look at that very, very closely. But negotiations and discussions are underway as I speak, so there isn't a huge amount I can say. But this is a government with a very active industrial strategy. You know, we've backed the aerospace industry, we've done masses to help that industry, the automotive industry, making cars here in Britain, more than we have for years. We're right behind that industry, helping where we can.
Let's pick up on some of the issues with the economy. Now, the message you're putting out today is a very positive one, and you're talking about jobs. Are you aware the disparity between what you say and what people feel? Because there is, you must know there's an enormous difference, and people can find it very frustrating sometimes when they talk about business and the successes in business, and yet they feel they're worse off.
I
And yet the energy
understand
prices keep going up. It doesn't feel like what you say it looks like.
I completely understand that, because the truth of the matter is this: the British economy is improving. We've got 1.3 million more people in work. We've got more businesses in our country. That's good news. But we are recovering from a long, deep and difficult recession. And it does take time before people really feel the effects of an economic recovery. We've seen this recovery so far come in jobs, in more people getting into work, rather than in increases in wages. Now, I think over time, I think wages will increase. We're helping people by cutting their taxes. So this week you can earn £10,000 a year before you start paying income tax. That helps people. But if your question is, does it take time for people to really feel a recovery? Yes, absolutely it does. All the more reason for sticking to our long-term economic plan and not going back to the bad old days of more borrowing, more spending and more debt.
But these things are actually tangible as well, aren't they? Because you talk about tax cuts, and everyone can do their own breakdown, or people do them for them, where they work out across the year possibly they're £70 worse, better off or worse off because of the changes. Many people better off, granted, from
everyone earning under
£100,000,
everyone will be, under this government, over £700 better off, because we've said you can earn £10,000 before you start paying taxes. And that change comes in on Sunday. It's a very big change for our country.
But then, Prime Minister, you add into that mix those extraordinary statistics just on their own for utilities, for example, that over, 3 years, they've gone up 37%. Over 6 years, 50%. And those gains that you're talking about don't end up at gains at all, because people have higher costs to pay. The wages effectively are frozen. Some people have taken pay cuts. That's a reality.
But that is absolutely why we have stepped in and acted where we can. So we haven't just cut your income tax. We've tried to freeze people's council tax bills. We've cut fuel duty so that people driving to work or taking the kids to school pay less when they fill up the car. We've acted on electricity bills, where we've rolled back the cost of these green taxes and charges, so that most people are seeing a £50 cut in the bills they otherwise would have paid. We've stepped in on water charges and tried to help there. We've frozen rail fares, kept them in line with inflation rather than seen them go up. So where we can act to help hard-working families, we will. But none of this would be possible unless we had taken the difficult decisions to get the deficit down, the difficult choices as part of a long-term plan.
Our time, as you know, is very tight. A couple of last thoughts for you. The word Muppet you used yesterday in the Commons. Are you happy?
These are spirited exchanges.
Well, that's a slightly trite response, if I may say, isn't it? Because it's an appropriate word to use.
But I think in the case I was making, which is, you know, Britain has benefited from the sale of Royal Mail to the tune of £2 billion, money that Labour never would have achieved because they never managed to privatise that business. And to be accused by the people who advised Gordon Brown about selling Britain's gold and losing £9 billion.
Well, the question was about the language.
I think the language in the House of Commons, where there's a lot of banter, I don't think that's inappropriate.
Just on the England football kit, a last word. £90 for an England football kit?
It's very expensive. You know, I mean, I've got an 8-year-old boy who's a massive football fan. Parents are under enormous pressure to buy the latest kit, and we shouldn't be taken advantage of.
Thank you very much for your time, Prime Minister.
Pleasure.